So last time when I was talking about perhaps one of the biggest Korean robot toys I currently have, I was talking about this, but we're actually not getting to that just yet, because first we've got to look at the individual robots, and that includes Blue Cop and Blaion? I don't know how you pronounce it. I'm going to go with Blaion, but yep, two individual figures, and I considered looking at them individually. I'm looking at them both together here, but I'm going to do a separate video on the combination because I don't want this video to be like 2 hours long. But the reason I'm not looking at each figure separately is because, well, there are a couple of redeeming factors, but I really don't like Blue Cop, so I'm probably not going to devote that much attention to him. And I feel like it would be kind of silly to put out like a 5-minute video saying like, yeah, he looks neat, but I don't like him, and then, you know, a separate video on this guy. So I'm just doing them both together. As you can see, we've got the Noble fire truck and the POS cop car, and that's just, you know, that's what they do with a lot of these combiners. To be clear, my distaste for this doesn't have anything to do with the whole fascist oppression thing. It's more that I just don't really like this as a figure, but I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit. So here we've got the two of them. They both have cards that are roughly the same size cards. Blue Cop's is a little bit bigger because he's got a little bit more in there, but Blaion's is not a slouch either. And they're just chunky cards that very obviously turn into something. Mayhaps gauntlets, but we'll look at these again in a little bit. But they do integrate with both. Like, obviously the blue one goes with Blue Cop, the red one goes with Blaion, but they can both use both cards at the same time, so we'll look at those later. And here they are together. Blaion is clearly the massive one of the pair, but we are going to start with Blue Cop because I kind of want to get him out of the way first, because he's, you know, going to be not really going to say much about him. I will say the car as just a design is pretty cool. It reminds me a lot of, what was the name? Captain Police, that's what it was. It reminds me a bit of Captain Police's car mode, where it was just this unnecessarily fancy and sleek sports car that had been press ganged into law enforcement. The contours of the car are cool, the design is cool, and honestly, if it weren't for the blue and white color scheme with like the red up top, I could even convince myself this isn't actually a cop car. It looks cool for what it is. He's got an angry eyebrow spoiler right up there for some reason. And yeah, it's like a cool design. The colors are nice, taken in a vacuum. There's a lot of nice detailing that has been picked out in various colors, though the back is a little bit, like you got the taillights picked out, not picked out, but like separated out in translucent red plastic, but then this is just kind of a mush. And also, this is a lot of translucent red plastic in here. But yeah, the car is fine. It rolls extremely well. And that is it for Blue Cop. Bringing Blaion in here. Oh, he's so much bigger and heavier. As you can see, he also rolls very well. And he is a fire truck that is kind of messier. I do think, for all my criticisms of this figure, which we will get into more in robot mode, the vehicle mode here definitely looks cleaner than this, because here you've got the obvious robot shins. There's like a gap that you can just barely see in there. There's a fair bit of parts forming for this guy, which I don't necessarily mind, but it is there. And the yellow that they used for the lines here, it's got kind of a greenish tinge to it, which is a little bit, like, I don't hate it, but it has this weird effect where, one, it just kind of looks a little bit odd with everything else, but it also makes it feel like the paint is faded a little bit, even though it's not. It's actually applied pretty crisply. It's just that green shade is a little bit eh. And also, once again, they painted tabs that are going to be plugged in for the robot and combine modes, so that paint is starting to rub off already, which is just like, why do they paint tabs? This is like the second or third figure I've looked at for Metal Cardbot where they painted tabs. They did it on Blue Cop's card too. They didn't do it on Blaion. The tabs for his thing, they're there. They didn't paint them. They left them unpainted. Ah. Anyway, the vehicle mode looks all right. It's a little bit gets a little bit chunky towards the back, and around front you've got a very clear robot head just sitting there. Now this flap comes down to cover it up and hide it a little bit, but like it can't really go all the way forward. It kind of has to sit at this angle, which is fine. It kind of matches up with this tapering here, but it just doesn't really fully hide that face. Though I like that gold lion crest on the front there. For what it is, it's okay. It's just kind of dirty around the top. Or not dirty, messy. Dirty is the wrong word. And then around back, it's isn't that interesting? And along the bottom, that's again, kind of obvious robot stuff. But something that is kind of cool is despite how all of this comes together, you do get a little bit of functionality on the, whoop, that was the wrong joint, on the ladder slash hose. Of course, all this stuff is like interconnected. There are lots of joints for various reasons that move, so you kind of have to grab towards the base a little bit. This joint, I could probably tighten the screw a bit. I actually loosened the screw when I first got it, but that's because I was seeing that there's a tendency for this joint to crack if it's a little too tight, so I just loosened it up a little bit to make sure I wouldn't crack it, which is actually kind of a theme for this set. In particular, Blaion here is, there was some stuff that had to be adjusted when I first got him, and that was a little bit disappointing. I didn't expect that from Metal Cardbot, but I guess buyer beware. And then also, in addition to the joint here, there's also a joint here, which it like mirrors it, but it's also like, why? Because it just kind of looks silly. I guess you could do this if you wanted to. And otherwise, it just sits in here, and there are these little cutout spots that go around these obvious joints at the top there. So yeah, that's Blaion's truck mode. I think it's still my preferred of the two, just because it's like nice and hefty. Like this is a heavy, heavy fire truck, but also not the cleanest. Bring Blue Cop back in here. We'll do some quick size comparisons. Here they are with the red twins, and they're kind of about what you'd expect. Blue Cop's vehicle mode is roughly the same size as Tobot v Wild Chief. Wild Chief is slimmer and maybe a little bit shorter, but like taller. And this is also supposed to be a sports car, so of course it's kind of squished down and spread out a little bit more. That tends to be the case for a lot of these things. All right, and now we transform. So we will start with Blue Cop once again to get this out of the way. And that's a simple transformation, pretty effective. To start, going to use these very stiff joints to flip out what will become robot mode feet, and these clip in down here. Then what I like to do is kind of pull this down just slightly, because there are some tabs here, and then grab his little eyebrows to pull the entire roof section of the car up and bring that down. I'm going to take these tabs, fold them out, and they kind of double hinge back. Double hinge back. And then rotate the entire back side of the car around. Actually, should have done this first. Bring the arms down. And I do find it's easiest when going into car mode to kind of get everything like this and then bring the arms in, rather than try and like line everything up, because otherwise this stuff kind of crashes together if you have the arms back when you're trying to like bring these around. So that's just what I do. But anyway, I like to line these up so that they're this flat bit is kind of parallel with where the feet flat bits are. Though, unfortunately, there are a lot of different clicks in this, so it can be hard to line it up if you're not doing it by eye. And then fold out the little knee pads, which they actually fold out further, like a lot further. So I just kind of go until I feel a little bit of resistance, so they have a little bit of an angle to them. And then split the legs. Now, going to bring the entire upper body section down. You can also double hinge out the arms, what are clearly arms, and rotate forearms. I push here to get the head going, and then I can pull that back, push the head up, and it will actually click into place. And then before folding all this down, you take the butt head and flip that up, and that sits inside the chest cavity. And then this comes down to kind of cover up the head a little bit. And there is Blue Cop in his robot mode, and we will look at him more in a bit. And yes, I know that these hip skirts are also supposed to fold down. These actually do come down like that. However, I did see that these joints sometimes can crack, and there are these little connectors here. These are kind of help. These kind of keep things together in the combined mode, so I don't want to risk breaking them. So rather than risk breaking them, and I'm not sure what to do to like fix that, because it's not a, it's not something that shock oil, like a silicone-based lubricant, can fix. It's more of a like the way things are shaped. There's like detents to it, and the final detent, especially on this one, that brings the hip skirt down is way too tight. So in the interest of not breaking this thing, I'm just leaving the hip skirts up on purpose. But just to be clear, to complete the transformation, you do actually bring these down. I'm just not risking it. So anyway, that's Blue Cop. And now we are going to transform Blaion. And to start, I'm going to take this junk out, and it's kind of tricky to do, but there's these little gaps right down here in these little circular bits that there are some pegs that are pegged into, and I find that the easiest way to get it is kind of pull out this way and then pull back to get this out. And there we go. So there's one, and there's two, and this, just want to bring these out and then fold those in like that, so it's like a V shape, and this will go off to the side until the end. Now that that's out of the way, we can do other stuff without having to worry about, you know, that holding the legs together. I'm going to pop the ladder out of here. Come on, there we go. So it's these gray bits here clip in down here. And then to finish transforming the ladder, fold these gray tabs in, pop this apart, open this panel, rotate the fist out, rotate the fist around, and then bring this back in. And then this black piece folds down and pegs in to make a fist. And then same deal here, open that up, rotate that around, close that back up, and then close that up, and there's another fist. And now for more parts forming. So I'm gonna separate these bits here by just kind of pulling out to the sides, just a little bit. And that gets these tabs freed up, so we can open those panels up. I'm going to unpeg this flap here from the side. There are a couple of different pegs that it pegs into here, and this can come out. There's actually a hole right here that this other joint will go through, so let's pull that out. And then this black piece that the wheel is on disconnects from the side, and I don't like doing this because it clips in really solidly, and I don't want to like risk pulling up the wheel, so I kind of get a finger down along this ridge here and pull that way. It doesn't ever feel great to do, and that snap is always worrying, but that pops out. And now this will swing around, and these paint scuffed tabs will plug in here, and then this will swing around and tab in to the same actually the same slots, but on the other side. And that will go off to the side as well. Same thing with this side, unpeg that, bring this out, and then just I hate doing that. It doesn't sound good. And fold this in, plug it in, fold this in, plug it in, off to the side. Okay, now this flap, just push that all the way in because it'll get pushed in anyway because I always bump it with my finger. We'll do the lower body first. So I'm going to split the legs and bring those out. This bit is on a bit of a ratchet, so you can pull that out so you can see what you're doing. You can see how this joint is kind of like going this way. You want to straighten that out. So give the knee a couple clicks, fold that flap in, and then give the lower joint a couple clicks, and then that can come back in. And you want to do the this end of it first. So bring it down 2, fold that in, bring it up 2, and put that back. Now, you want to untab this flap from the back because it does tab in. There's a little gray tab right there, so make sure to untab this first. And then push this whole thing up. And when you push it up, it'll also push out the toe that you can bring down the rest of the way. And once this is pushed up, bring this back in, and there's a second slot on this flap that'll tab into the same gray tab and lock this in place in a slightly higher position, as you can see. And then same deal here as you'd expect, because the legs are mirrors of each other. Push that in, bring that down, tab that back in. There we go, there's the legs. Now, there are a bunch of different joints in here, in these struts up here, which you'll see a little bit more in detail later, but bring this up. Bring that up like that. So we want to get that out of the way so that we can fold up the skirts on both sides, and on all sides, really. And now, rotate the lower body around, and then bring all this back down. Now the upper body is a little bit more complicated. So, this was down like this for the vehicle mode. Gonna bring that all the way up, and bring this all the way forward. Now we can push out the head, and it actually clips in down here. And I don't like pulling up on this as like the main stress point because I don't want to crack anything here. So I'm pulling up gently here, but I'm pushing with my thumb to try and unclick that. And that, I'm hoping, will keep the neck from breaking. But bring this up, and this will gently click into place. Spin the head around. Take the front of the fire truck and unpeg the whole thing. And then this, you can kind of see like the multi-joint system here. There's like a joint up here, and then there's also a joint in here. So I'm going to curl this back in, and for some reason, one of these sides just started like acting very squeaky and stiff after a couple of transformations, which is a little worrying, but it's held up so far. But anyway, that's this side. This is the one that's kind of icky feeling. But anyway, bring that in. Couple of clicks, and this will kind of rest on like a flat thing. It can come down further, which kind of is annoying, but this will rest kind of parallel to the collar section, I guess you could say. Bring this flap in, and this will clip in on either side. Flare out the front of the fire truck, and I like to do it a little bit more just to give me space. And then rotate the arms down. And with the arms rotated down, you can fold these back up. And you can do like whatever angle you want. I kind of prefer to have them out a little bit because if you have them in, they clash into things for the shoulder joints. But the joints are pretty stiff, so you don't have to worry about it too much. And then bring those out. Because before we attach the arms, we've got to slap these things on. And the way these go is there's a little circular clip point there, and these little nubbins on the hip skirts. And you just want to peg those in there. And you want to do it with the wheel facing forward. Because if you do it this way, then all this junk is like sitting up here, and it's going to get in the way of the arms. So you want to plug it in here. And that just sits back like sweeping skirts. And one other thing before we attach the arms. This goes on here, and this is a little bit tricky to show, but essentially there are these channels on either side of the back, and these kind of bits that stick off on the sides on either side of this. You want to get this in here, and it kind of nestles in on both sides. There we go. You got to get it lined up, and then push it forward, and it'll click. And once it's clicked into place, then you don't have to worry about it coming off. It's a place for it to sit. And finally, at long last, we can attach those arms, and that is a simple matter of, got this vaguely T-shaped opening, and you can see what fist it is based on where the thumb placement is, and this will just slide over the joint here and clip into place on both sides. And there we have Blaion and Blue Cop. And once again, Blaion is so much bigger than Blue Cop. But they, as a duo, they look pretty good together. It took me a little bit of time, because, okay, when I first got the set, I was a little bit like, I don't know. But after messing with them repeatedly and also spending a surprising amount of time adding shock oil to, like, head joints, because for some reason, his neck joint is entirely clear red plastic, which is terrible. So I used some shock oil in the joint with the hopes that, hopefully the joint won't freeze up and crack or otherwise destroy itself. I did the same thing for his head, and had to do some other adjustments, which I'll get into more in the next video. But after doing all those adjustments, I was thinking, like, well, Blue Cop looks cooler. Blaion's a little bit, like, the chest in particular is kind of annoying to mess with, but, like, no, now that I've messed around with him enough, I really like Blaion as, like, a standalone figure. It's, yes, he's a little parts formery, and the best trait of both of these figures is their combination, but he's still pretty cool. I really like the way he transforms for the most part. It's like, what's going on with the chest might be a little fiddly, but it's really interesting how it's on that, like, multi-jointed system. I also like how the shoulders, like the front of the fire truck, kind of splits off to become these weird shoulder pads. Proportionally, though, he's, I want to say pear-shaped, but even by pear-shaped standards, that's a bit extreme. My one real gripe aesthetically with Blaion is I really hate that the way they designed this set is so that when he's in this mode, you've got the screw holes front and center on both forearms. That bugs me so much because there's kind of literally no reason for it. You can't swap them because of the T-shape of the connection there. You can't just flip this around because it's not going to fit. But, like, if they had just done the T-shape going in the other direction, you could just have this fist on that forearm and, like, swap that, have it going around the other way, and then the screw holes won't be in the front. You can see, like, this is a much cleaner surface than this, and I don't get it, because, yes, for the combined mode, the way these peg in, the non-screw hold part is facing forward, but, like, literally all that is the decision of where they decided to put these 3 peg holes. All they needed to do was put this peg hole here on, like, the other, on their respective sides, and that would have made it so that you get the, the clean front for the forearms and the clean front for the combined mode. I don't get it. I don't understand. Maybe for whatever reason they felt like they had to have this on the left arm, but then they could have easily just put that on this bit. Like, this bit didn't have to be here. I don't know. It's very baffling to me why they chose to do this. Granted, he spends most of his life in combined mode, but still, it's just weird to me that that's what they decided to do. Anyway, let's stop nitpicking about Blaion for a minute and look at Blue Cop. And Blue Cop looks fine. He's a little bit heavy in the shins, but he looks fine. I think, like, the contours and stuff, like the line work that they've got going on, the midriff section and stuff is pretty neat. I like the colors that they've got going on the legs. The turquoise for the shin things is kind of interesting, like that translucent turquoise. It's fine, and he's got like the big car shoulders, which I do like. But it's just kind of, I don't know. He's not doing it for me. The head it's Blue Cop's head, I guess. It's got like the little cap, some nice color separation. It's like the silver trim, the gold, the chrome gold, the really nice metallic red is all cool. It is interesting though, looking at these two, like a lot of the other metal Cardbot figures I've looked at lately have these really nice metallic eyes, particularly like a metallic green. These two do not have that. This is just white. Blaion's like sky blue, and that's it. I don't know why, but it's fine. But like the head design is fine. It looks all right. Paint's nice. Coloring is nice. The articulation is something I really don't like about Blue Cop. And the reason I don't like it is because this is a much newer, much more modern metal Cardbot figure, but the articulation kind of makes it feel like one of the earliest figures in the line, even though the engineering is completely different, especially considering what this guy has to do, which is really impressive. But I feel like maybe they could have, like, there has to have been a way to make it work. I don't know. But anyway, the head is on a ball joint, and it's a stick going down into the base. So you've got a lot of nice up and down and side to side, and you can rotate around. And as I said, I used some shock oil in there to try and loosen things up a bit. And here you can kind of see what I was talking about before, if I can angle it right, that the entire neck joint is translucent red plastic. That is so awful. And like they even gave him like a piping block back here, but there's no light piping on him, so it just is an unnecessary weak point, like actual structural weak point on this figure, which sucks. The shoulders, the shoulders do rotate all the way around, but you saw there, like the one that's really stiff click, but also like this doesn't peg in anywhere, so it's really easy to get those shoulder pads out of alignment. The arms go out, but also they're on kind of unforgiving clicky joints. There is no bicep rotation, which really bums me out. You get forearm rotation, and you kind of also have wrist rotation. Like it rotates a bit, but it doesn't go all the way around. I don't really get that. You do not get waist rotation. If you get the hip skirts and front skirts out of the way, which the hip skirts, as I said before, are staying up here because I just don't trust them, you get all the way out. You get only that far forward, that far back. You do not get thigh swivels, which is another disappointment. I saw that, like, apparently you can open the leg up and just shave down. It's like a square T-tab thing going into the leg. So if you shave down the edges of that square shape, it'll allow you to rotate the thigh. The only reason I haven't done that yet is because I feel like the thighs probably don't rotate for the sake of combiner stability. Again, we'll get into that later. You do get shin rotation, which is fine, but for one thing, it's below the knee, which the knees do not go to 90, but they get close enough. And if you get that flap out of the way, they can click in a little bit further. But because of all the bulk back here, you can't really, like, you have to bring the legs way out if you want to rotate the shins outward. And you can kind of cheat the ratchet, but not really. And it's very easy for it to get thunked back into place again. So, like, I don't like how unforgiving those are. I get why, because for combine mode stuff, but it's still disappointing. And then you don't get anything on the feet because they're clipped in, they're carved at an A stance, so whatever. But yeah, the articulation on Blue Cop is kind of a bummer. He just doesn't feel as good to mess with as Blaion. He doesn't feel bad. He's just not a fun toy for me to play with. Blaion, on the other hand, he is big and cumbersome, but I still enjoy messing with him. The head is also actually really cool. I like how ornate this is. It's a really nice mixture of colors with the red, the black, and then the gold and silver accents. Here you can also see he's got the light blue eyes rather than metallic. But, like, I really like this design. So you've got a little flame design on the one side there. And, like, I mean, check out what's going on here. This is kind of wild how you've got almost like exhaust tubes instead of the typical ear fins that these kinds of helmets get, and these tubes that are like connecting the bits here, it makes it look like his head is an engine, like a dragster engine almost, and I actually think that's really cool. It's a neat design. I don't know. He has like a spiky beard and this neat little head crest up here, but it's just more than anything, I really like what's going on back here. That's a really nifty design overall. And weirdly, the way the mouth plate is shaped, it kind of makes it look like his mouth plate has a mustache, which is odd, but I kind of dig it. Blaion's articulation is better than Blue Cop. He does have the ball-jointed head, like the stick going down into the neck, so you get some up, down, side to side, full rotation. The shoulders, as long as these shoulder pads aren't down like this, because if you do this, then they push against here if you go forward. So I just have them out a little bit, or you can do that if you want, like it's whatever. But shoulders can go all the way around. So, as you saw, this can crash into the flap here. They can go all the way around. The arms can go out, not quite all the way, though if that bulk is out of the way, they can go out further, because there is this all this happening. You get a 90-degree elbow. As you saw, you get bicep rotation, which has a very soft kind of thunk to it. Same with the elbow. And the fists actually do articulate. They're on ball joints, so they can rotate, but they can also wiggle in and out and even up and down. You do technically get waist articulation, but not up here. Like, this does not rotate, and that's unfortunate. But if you get the various skirts and whatnot, including in the back, out of the way, you can get a bit of rotation down here. Probably don't want to go all the way around because it'll start pushing this up into the stuff with the backpack, but you get a couple of clicks out of it. This, though, is very... that's awkward. And then if you get the skirts out of the way, the legs can kick forward very clicky that far. Can go back, again, very clicky, that far. Can go out that far before this is getting in the way, though you can rotate that back to get a little bit more out of the way. You get a ratcheted thigh swivel, and this does push in here depending on the angles, but ratcheted thigh swivel, that's cool. As was apparent during the transformation, you get double jointed knees, which can bend in a grand total of that far, so a little bit over 90. And you don't get ankle tilt, but you do get toe tilt. So the toe can angle a bit and actually ratchet it up and down. So yeah, Blaion's articulation is decidedly better than Blue Cop's. Now let's talk card weapons, because the card weapons do not add any height to them, so we can do that before we get to size comparisons. Blue Cop's card is actually a couple of different components. It's a little different than Blaion's. Here's the image, no name, as is usual at this point. This just pops off in the 4 points here, and again, they painted the tabs that this goes over. There you can see the symbol on the back. Now, to take care of this, you want to kind of pull this black section forward. It actually tabs in over these gray pieces. I do that because I find that it's easier to get these things untabbed when this isn't holding everything together. Because what these do is these tab into the sides here. So you want to get that out of the way so you can untab these, and this just comes right off. And this will kind of straighten out like this for now. We will come back to that. This thing, you want to fold this up, take this chunk here, pop this out, and fold it all the way around. And then fold up these bits. You can leave it like this, but, and I have to assume this is intentional, when this is out of the way, it doesn't work when this is folded around, but when this is out of the way, you can actually push this back and it'll click into place, and it'll allow you to close the wolf mouth all the way. And then you can unfurl the fingers and rotate the thumb around. I don't necessarily know if the thumb needs to rotate around, but in my experience going into the card mode, these you kind of need to get these knuckles all the way in, otherwise this kind of becomes a problem, and you kind of can't do that really, so I just rotate it up and out of the way. So there we go. And this has a very specifically shaped hole in here. So what you want to do is rotate Blue Cop's forearm, and you also kind of want to bring it forward a couple of clicks, because otherwise things will not fit. And then this slides over all of this and will click in, and that gives Blue Cop a Hellboy fist. A whammer, as they call it in the movie. That's fine. The detailing on this is really nice. I like all the different colors that they used. The translucent red, the silver, the white, the blue. It all works well. It looks nice. And then when this is plugged in, of course, you can open the mouth and push this forward and then pull it forward the rest of the way. And it gives them like a big cannon arm, which is silly, but I like it for what it is. But we're going to leave that like that for now, because actually we're not done, because we forgot about this thing. I forgot about this thing. So this goes over the head, and there are some tabs here and back here that will go into these slots in the front and the back. And personally, I find it a little easier to get the front tabbed in first, and it just kind of plugs in, and then in the back it actually kind of clicks in just a little bit, and then this can fold down, and then the cannons can lower or go up and around if you don't want them to be visible. You got options. It is a little bit of a shame that this thing is kind of so clunky, and like the shoulder pads kind of get in the way if you want to bring the arm out, but hey, you can do it. And now, just get the other arm ready, because Blaion's card, as you can see, same deal, no name, cool picture. This can also integrate with Blue Cop. So pop this off, and there's symbol. Rotate this back, pull this bit up, and in order to use this with Blue Cop, you need to fold this out and around like before. This one, though, because of how this all comes together, you don't have to tuck the fingers all the way in, so I just do this, but I'm gonna do this so it's more of a proper fist. And this just, once again, plugs over Blue Cop's arm. There we go. And there he is with two big fists. And that was my fault. I didn't have him down flat. I had him like back at an angle. Blaion's thing is you can open the mouth and extend this little telescoping sword thing. And there is that. So that's how that works. I'm going to take both of these off and put Blue Cop off to the side, because now we've got to do the same thing with Blaion. And Blaion's thing, you actually don't need to fold this down for Blaion, so we're going to fold this back around. And I'm going to do the same thing on Blue Cop, and unfortunately, because of this channel here, this will not fit here. So we've got to push this through, and that will just sit like that. But now we can unplug the left arm. These hold on very well. You want to put the fist away, so open that up, rotate that around, back in, fold this back up, and now this will untab and fold around and just kind of sit like this. and it pegs in here. There are 3 pegs here, 3 holes here, and that'll just peg in, and that gets this forearm chunk out of the way so that we can bring the gauntlet in and plug that in. And there is Blaion with his big gauntlet, and that looks less ridiculous than what was going on with Blue Cop. But you can also do the same thing with Blue Cop's weapon, as I said. So I'm going to disconnect this, which again holds on very well. Fold this all away. Fold this all away. And now this does not have that joint, so things are going to get a little bit crowded down here. But what works is you can just use that. And this will just come in. And once again, you've got the 3 peg holes, 3 pegs, and they're in the appropriate orientation. So you can peg that in and just kind of have that up and out of the way of the skirt and plug this in. And there he is with both of the gloves on. What sucks about this, though, is the angle here is kind of hitting the shoulder pad, but there's a kind of, it doesn't quite catch, but it kind of does, secondary position for this bit. So you can just kind of bring that down so that it's not quite as crashy up there, but it is a bit crowded. And then if you wanted to, you can extend this, open this up and extend this. And there's Blaion with both weapons on, both extended. Looks pretty cool. And again, I think proportionally this works better on Blaion. But that is just a thing you can do. It's not the main intention of the... come on, let go. It's not the main intention of this mode, so we're going to just change all this back. And that is finally it for Blue Cop and Blaion. So let's do those last little size comparisons. Bringing in the red twins, you can see that they are both still pretty big. Blue Cop is on the smaller side, but Blaion is huge. And Blue Cop is almost the same height as Black Hook, but Black Hook is a little bit taller. Also, he's a much older figure with better articulation. And here they both are with the original Heavy Iron, and yeah, Blaion is still towering above Heavy Iron. So, as I said, big guy. And that does it for Metal Cardbot Blaion and Blue Cop. As individual figures, they look cool, they look really neat together, but Blaion much more interesting and fun to mess with for me. Blue Cop, just as I said, like, he doesn't feel as good to mess with. It's not just the limited articulation, I think the articulation bothers me with Blue Cop because he's paired with another figure that has much better articulation. You kind of consider them like a part of a set, and having one of the figures in that set be so is kind of a downer. Also, it's just like the big fist is kind of like, I know that's his thing, like his original toy had something like that, but I don't like how little room it leaves you with the figure, because you have to fold this thing around, and that gets in the way here, and all this stuff gets in the way here, and like if he had a bicep swivel, then you could move things out of the way a little bit easier, but he doesn't have that. You can still use the swivel at the forearm, so like if you wanted to, you could give him like the kind of uppercut pose, or have it angled a little bit, which I appreciate the fact that that works, but again, it's not a bicep swivel, so it doesn't quite, if this could swivel this way, then that would get this a little bit more out of the way. Point is, as a pair, they're fine, but Blaion steals the show. Anyway, that's going to do it. Thank y'all for watching. Next video, we are going to put these two jerks together and get something kind of amazing out of it. But it's going to be involved, so that's why I'm doing it separately. And oh, hey, look at that. This video is still almost an hour long before editing. Great. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.